not just today's first joke, it's today's first story. We're talking about it. It's the biggest thing to hit the internet in months, I would say. I've been seeing jokes left and right. Maybe this is a little bit of bias on my part because it affects the state that I call home. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the broadcast. I hope you're having a wonderful I guess it's second to last day of the year. Isn't that nuts to say out loud, to kind of recognize to yourself? It's like, wow, I did nothing but complain about how slow things were moving, how slow certain instances were, how slow the government worked. It took months for them to start working again. You know what I mean? And then eventually, before you know it, time just slips through your hands. It slips through your fingers. You lose things. You lose people. You lose destinations. It's a crazy time we're in, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the memoriam period of 2025. We're moving into 26. It's going to be like New Year's Rockin' Eve on this broadcast for the next 2 days. I hope you know that. We're going to be having a good time. We're going to be talking about the things you need to know, and we're going to be having fun while doing so. So I hope that you go ahead and join me for today and tomorrow's broadcast, whatever. Let's just jump into the first story, ladies and gentlemen, because it's too big. I'm sure you're already seeing the jokes, but let's just cover it from not a right-leaning angle, not a left-leaning angle, not a I hate Somalis, not a I hate the United States. Let's look at it from you just walked into town. You're an outsider from Sargasso or some shit. I don't know. You've never been to Minnesota before. You're like, interesting. I've heard a lot about Minnesota. I've heard it's this kind of genteel culture where, like, William H. Macy, he might pay to have his wife kidnapped every now and again. And, like, sure, Francis McDormand, there's a lot of these amazing cops that are they have amazing looking hair that you don't even realize it's a wig. And, they have this way of talking to you that makes you want to confess to stuff. Because, they feel like they know something that you don't. Well, see, that's just weird, And then he's like, yeah, that's really anxious, isn't it? I'm working with you here. It's just, you're adding pressure where there doesn't need to be. And then, listen, you've heard maybe that there's a little bit of white-collar crime. Maybe there's some blue-collar crime. You go up to the Red Lake Reservation. You go up to White Earth. You know what I mean? Maybe an Injun will stab you or something like that. Maybe he'll steal your scalp. But just in general, you don't think of Minnesota as a very criminal-laden environment. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's just say that you as this outsider hear about something called the Quality Learing Center. I mean, first of all, your attention is going to be drawn to the fact that this is a business advertising that it is for children. Now, if you're also incensed and alarmed by the idea of leering at children, as I am, where I'm like, what the fuck are they even saying? Yeah, well, okay, let's just look at this article. The Quality Learing Center makes the Somali scheme go mainstream as everyone is looking into the Minnesota daycare industry, showing that the fraud was so obvious a kindergartner could see what was going on. Kash Patel is sending FBI forces to come and save us. It might be too late, ladies and gentlemen. Folks, we got to talk about this. It's a viral video that got posted in late December 2025 by the independent journalist and YouTuber Nick Shirley. Surely you can't be serious, who visited several Minneapolis children care centers, including the Quality Learning Center, noted for its sign misspelling learning as leering. What the fuck? The Learning Center cannot spell learning correctly. I love it. I love it. They can barely speak the language, which is great. You see a lot of these Somali people that are, like, starting these businesses, and I'm not trying... Listen, we're just gonna say the foreheads are noticeable. It's not even like all Africans look this way. It's just the Somali people. Somalian people, for some reason, have this, like, massive forehead with a giant oblong... You see it on, what's his name, the Somali pirate that ran for mayor of Minneapolis just not too long ago, Omar Fateh. They have this kind of thing where it looks like they have a lot on the mind, and it is. It's because they have a lot on the mind. It's schemes. Listen, surely he alleged these facilities appeared inactive or empty during his visits, yet received substantial taxpayer funds. As we've covered for months, we've been covering this scandal that Minnesota's Childcare Assistance Program, the CCAP, which supports low-income families, families. He claimed that the Quality Learning Center received approximately $1.9 million in 2025 and up to $4 million in total, framing it as a part of a broader fraud, broad fraud patterns. Excuse me. God, I can't read to save my goddamn life. The video has already garnered tens of millions of views. It's hundreds of millions, tons of impressions on X. It's amplified the existing concerns about oversight in Minnesota's social services, of which there is none. I've been looking at starting the Your Brain on Air conservation fund, where we start feeding, I don't know, the elderly, and we just like make up people who never existed. And I'm pretty sure, given how shit the IRS, and isn't it weird that the IRS knows if you owe them $1,000 but doesn't know if someone is stealing a couple $1 million? Isn't that weird? Like a little strange that like they're really concerned about whether or not you are paying in full or like, whatever, but they're not that concerned about where that money's going. It's a little weird to me. I don't know. It's a little strange. The incident, it's building on long-standing investigations into fraud in the Minnesota programs, and most notably the Feeding Our Future case, a $250 million COVID-era scheme to defraud the federal child nutrition funds, leading to over 78 indictments and dozens of convictions by late 2025. Many defendants of Somali descent, the majority of which, actually, 89% of all of them, and 90% have Somali names, Federal authorities, including the FBI under Director Kash Patel, announced the surge in resources to Minnesota for probing large-scale fraud in programs like Childcare and Medicaid, describing prior efforts as just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, he's probably not wrong. He's gonna tell you about his girlfriend's country music tour, but it's gonna be on the side of like, hey, we're actually gonna bust up some of the fraud centers in Minnesota. We're gonna get the Somalis out. As Trump said, as he has noted, I don't want them in our country. I'll be honest with you. I don't care if that's PC to say. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country stinks. Their country stinks. I mean, like, well, why don't they go over there and fix it for themselves? That's a direct quote. That's what he said. The headline, you know what I mean? Quality Learning Center. Learing Center. This is just fascinating. I have a clip from the actual video itself. I'll play it for you so you can get a sense for how blatant and bizarre this is. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, so the setup for the video is they're at the learning center area. It's obviously like this shell building where like you can rent out little areas and you can slap a sign on the front and say it's a learning center, and then apparently the government will send you a check because these guys. It's this independent YouTuber, a Minnesota resident named David, and they're going to check out this one lady, this lady's organization. This one woman comes out in a hijab. She looks like a letterbox. I was hoping that David would fold up his papers and stick it in her eyes and be like, will this get to the courthouse if I leave it in there? Like, come on, let me be honest. That's not anti-Islamic to say. It's funny to say. I'm going to be honest with you. You can make fun of how Christians dress. I make fun of how the Pope dresses every single day. I'm going to be honest with you. It's goofy as fuck. But let's take a look at this clip where this letterbox, this Somali woman, slams the door on these fine gentlemen who are just inquiring about whether or not they could have a child enter the daycare facility.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money's going. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
A bombshell viral video purports to have cracked open a crucial part of the alleged Somali aid scheme in Minnesota, as federal investigators say as much as $9 billion could have been stolen in fraudulent schemes within the state. The aftermath has since garnered intense backlash aimed at state leadership, with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz desperately defending himself against ever-growing allegations. Here's everything you need to know. On December 26th, YouTuber Nick Shirley shared a 42-minute video of himself and a Minnesotan named David traveling around Minneapolis and visiting multiple child care and learning sites allegedly owned by Somali immigrants and receiving millions in taxpayer dollars.
$1.604 million in fiscal year 2025. This place right here.
However, the pair discovered that many were either shuttered entirely with blacked out windows, despite signage indicating they were open, or were helmed by staff who refused to participate in the video.
Can I speak to a manager?
Most of the sites, which claim to be licensed for dozens of children each.
That one has 137 children licensed, and it's this building the size of like the bread outlet in Detroit Lakes. It's like a little tiny building.
Had no children inside whatsoever.
Can you tell us why there are no children? Have you ever seen children at this childcare center?
Doesn't know if she's ever seen.
This worker walking into the Mako MAKO Childcare Center on 2538 25th Avenue South in Minneapolis. This Somali woman walks into the door with the 25 over it. I'm giving you the exact locations because people should be allowed to investigate these people and confront them. She just walks in and she's an employee and she goes like, "Oh yeah, I don't know if there's been any children here." That's a curious question. Reliable reporting indicates that the Quality Learning Center has a documented history of violations, 95 cited between 2019 and 2023 for issues like hazardous objects and missing child records, but has not been formally accused of fraud. The state officials from Minnesota Department of Child, Youth, and Families stated that the recent inspections within 6 months prior to the video found children present at featured sites, and one center had closed earlier. A manager at the Quality Learning Center denied wrongdoing, explaining that the facility operates evening hours, 2 to 10 p.m., for after-school care, and Shirley's footage was taken outside operating times. No evidence of criminal fraud at the center has been confirmed by the authorities yet. Oh, interesting, right? Let's keep going.
One infamous location called Quality Learning Center, which displays a misspelled sign.
I'll give the address of Quality Learning Center because I want people go there and ask these people questions. I'm encouraging. This is a straight doxing. I don't even care. 1411 Nicolette Suite B. There you go.
Reading Quality.
Their phone number is 612-702-4012.
Learing Center also features blacked out windows. The center is supposed to account for 99 children. However, a local resident of 8 years revealed he's never seen a child go in or out of the building.
Where are the children?
I haven't seen them. I've been here since 2017. I haven't seen anybody like that.
Never seen a child here.
No.
Shirley even asked multiple sites if he would be able to have his child join, only to be denied at the
Manager
door.
not here.
Can I get paperwork or anything?
No.
To submit my son-in-law Joey to come.
I love how they look you up and down. That's the one thing I've noticed about a lot of women in hijabs. They have this, it's a stare about them. And this is not a racist thing. This is like just we notice things about people. White people will look you up and down as though it's if you're a little bit colored in a CVS, white people will look you up and down. But if you're white and you walk up to a Somali person, they will look you up and down. It's just like, oh, you're a different color than me, so I'm going to look you up and down. That's the look it is. It's like she has this sneery looking face on her. She has her eyes going in two different directions. Her teeth are all fucked up. Looks like a product of inbreeding. She's got this green hijab and a black coat on, and she's going, "Manager is not here. You cannot get paperwork." And it's like, all right, chill. That's all right. I hate the looking up and down. Like, bitch, I can't look you up and down because you're only 4'3". I don't understand why all of you are so short. I don't get
Denied
it.
at the door.
Can I get paperwork or anything to submit my son-in-law Joey to come in here to daycare?
No.
Would my son-in-law Joey have friends to play with here? No.
The mega viral video has since spread like wildfire on social media.
Good.
Garnering over 100 million views on X alone. On Fox News' The Big Weekend Show, Shirley joked that the alleged scheme was so obvious that a kindergartner could figure out there was fraud going on.
So there better be change because, like I said, we work way too hard to be paying taxes. We work way too hard to be not knowing where our money's going. And at the end of the day, people in government, they work for us. We don't work for them. And so it's their responsibility to hold these people accountable.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has since faced intense scrutiny over the alleged fraud. Republican Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer wrote on X, $4 million of hard-earned tax dollars going to an education center that can't even spell learning correctly. Care to explain this one, Tim Walz? While New York Representative Mike Lawler called for people to be arrested and prosecuted, as well as for Walz to be held accountable for the scandal. In a statement to Fox News, a spokesperson for Tim Walz said, "The governor has worked for years to crack down on fraud and asked the state legislature for more authority to take aggressive action. He has strengthened oversight, including launching investigations into these specific facilities, one of which was already closed. However, a resurfaced clip shows that walls openly...
Well, actually, of course they're already closed because they're scooting out of town. What are you talking about? One of these, actually, you don't even have to worry because they're already closed. It's like, yes, you fucking dopes, because they came into town, they set up the organization, they stole all your money, and now now that they're out of town because they're like, fuck, they're on to us. Now that that's happening, you're going, oh, it's not happening anymore. Oh, the organization they've already they've dissolved. So it's fine. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I'm sorry. No third term for you, Tim. No third term. None.
Bragged about making it easier for people to get into the childcare business during the 2024 vice presidential...
That was embarrassing, by the way. That vice president moment, looking back at the debate when he was with J.D. Vance and he was like, we let people get it mad easy into the childcare industry. It's like, okay, yeah, cool. That's also why the foster care system in Minnesota is a fucking mess. If you want to talk about how bad the foster care system is in general, absolutely, whatever. But in Minnesota specifically, Department of Human Services doesn't give a fuck. Child Protective Services doesn't give a fuck about these kids. They show up with a blanket, and then they show up with a man in a hat, and then he drives you to your new parents' house. It's a ridiculous situation. It's most of the time, people are doing it just for the money. They don't actually care about the children, or they're doing it for like the clout, the social value, any of that. It's a lot of the times these puritanical weirdos. They don't always have to be Christian, but they tend to be, and then they just they rule over their house like a fucking warlord, and it's terrifying. They're not actual parents. They're horrible people. This isn't all foster care people, but it's the majority. Sorry to say it.
Already closed. However, a resurfaced clip shows that Rawls openly bragged about making it easier for people to get into the childcare business during the 2024 vice presidential debate.
Embarrassing.
As far as childcare on this, you have to take it at both the supply and the demand side. And we have to make it easier for folks to be able to get into that business and then to make sure that folks are able to pay for that. We were able to do it in Minnesota, and I'm still telling you this.
Yeah, and guess where the rest of the country, if we had, I'm sorry to say it, I did vote for Kamala and Tim Walz, but and thank God he wasn't at the top of the ticket. I don't think I would have voted for Tim Walz for president, because I'm sorry, the China influence is weird. The money shuffling is weird. Your state is admittedly on the tax basis a mess. I don't want somebody who's so incompetent, so Nebraska energy. You know what I mean? I copy Warren Buffett's accent. Ha ha ha. Enough. By the way, happy retirement to Warren Buffett, friend of the show. Tomorrow, we're looking forward to celebrating it with him.
State of Minnesota has been plagued by several high-profile fraud scandals in recent years, the largest being the Feeding Our Future scheme.
I love that they show a picture of the only employee at the Feeding Our Future thing was a woman in a hijab. God damn it. It's not, listen, when you say that it's mostly the Somali community doing it, and it's like in every instance of the statistics, it is overwhelming. It is 80%. This is not like black whatever statistics where 13% of the population commit 50% of the crimes. This is like point whatever percent of the population committing 80% of the fraud crimes. It's overwhelming. It's not even a joke. It's like just like a thing. It's just a thing. And then when you say that to people and you're like, maybe we shouldn't take in people from the Somali country. Maybe we shouldn't take in people from Somalia. Maybe their community in general has this tendency when it comes to fraudsters and whatnot and stealing, and their country is a mess. Democratically, they have no representative organization. Their government is a mess. It's been a mess ever since the early 90s, excuse me. Like, I'm just trying to say that maybe we should look into the people that your country cannot maintain itself. It cannot maintain its standards of living. It cannot maintain anything for the basic population that already calls it home if it continues to onboard people from other nations willy-nilly of what their values are or who they are. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think it's racist. I think it's just a legitimate concern of like, okay, maybe this community in particular in Minnesota has shown to be a little rowdy. So maybe not saying we shut the door to Somalians, but maybe they should have a doctorate in their own country before we take them in, assuming they're going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Is that a fair precedent? Probably.
8 scammers, many of whom are from Somalia, have been prosecuted in the COVID-era food relief program scam. The ploy, according to prosecutors, involved funneling money from state social services coffers, including at the Department of Human Services and Department of Education, to the nonprofit Feeding Our Future and other organizations to ostensibly feed school children. Instead, the plot used the funds to splurge on the lavish lifestyles of the nonprofit's workers.
I would like to mention in this clip where they showed the owner, and I believe an employee of the childcare facility, the Quality Learning Center. He's wearing a $300 North Face jacket. I figured this out via investigations. It was literally on TikTok. If you poke on him and then it pulls up bring up similar, it is the $300 North Face jacket. So listen, they are not just splurging on like whatever, some of them I imagine might be sending money back to Al-Shabaab, whatever. If they want to fund terrorism groups, that's their own thing. I'm mad about the North Face jackets. I'm not going to lie. That's my real concern here.
According to Minnesota education officials, Feeding Our Future and its affiliated groups submitted over $500 million in claims, while federal authorities estimate that the extent of the rampant fraud could total $9 billion. The DOJ has already convicted at least 57 fraudsters in the scheme. On Monday, December 29th, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem announced in an X post that DHS would be going, quote, door to door to suspected fraud sites in Minneapolis before vowing, more coming.
Can I just say it? These fraudsters, in instances where it's like these obvious cases of people just ripping off millions, deportation, alligator Alcatraz, I don't care. My sympathy, even if they're naturalized or whatever, if you find out that this person was from another country, came here, naturalized themselves, married in, is an American citizen now, I don't care. If this person was from another foreign nation and they came here to steal millions of dollars from the hardworking taxpayers that called this place home before this person ever even considered ripping this place off, I say that I have no issue with that person being denaturalized. I have no issue with that person being sent back to where they came from so that they can go pillage and rape and rob their own land. I have no issue with that. If you want to behave a certain way, you can go a certain land. Sorry to say it. I don't know. That's not a racist thing to say. It isn't. It's purely a certain people who cannot conform with the rules of a community shouldn't live in a community. That's not a racist line of thought. It's not a racist conclusion to reach. It's one that says maybe people who have come to this country for the expressed purpose of stealing the taxpayer basis, maybe they have no reason to be being here. Maybe they have no real reason. Maybe we don't want those types of fellas here influencing the youth, creating more environments for criminal operation. We don't want that. Enough pretending like you need to be behind endless streams of open borders or every person of every country has our values and will think the same as us and diversity is our strength 100% of the time, never question it. If you have that mentality, that's exactly what got the UK crushed. It's exactly what got the most of Europe crushed under this lens of you can't criticize it, otherwise it's Islamophobia. Even if we have the prayer to call and whatnot being played in Dearborn, Michigan, that it's just this untouchable wave that a lot of people are not able to criticize most of the time because they're so Islamophobia and whatnot, criticizing Islam and whatnot, it's such a scary angle. A lot of people in America barely understand the Eastern world and barely understand the Islamic religion and barely have read anything from the Quran. By the way, most Islamic people who live in the United States are in the same exact situation. They just share Quran verses on Facebook, but in all honesty, this is such a lane I think Americans need to educate themselves in because Americans are so uncomfortable criticizing the hijab. Americans are so uncomfortable criticizing the idea of women in subordination. Americans are so uncomfortable with the idea that this, in our country we can push forward the ideals of women equality, but it's their lands, that's not really our business. And also, if they immigrate to our country and start bringing those values and we start seeing women in hijabs in our country, we shouldn't say anything about it because that's their culture. We shouldn't say anything. I don't know. It feels like this psyop, guys. It feels like this big thing that's like, oh, we're gonna infiltrate. We're gonna create this thing, this layer of protection to where we can say, you don't like what we're pushing, racist. That's kind of a ridiculous thing to push forward. I don't know why you, as a citizen of the United States, would want to push forward something that actively makes you less of a citizen, actively gives you less power in a country that you called home first. Wouldn't understand that, personally. The renewed attention, it's intensified the scrutiny on Minnesota's childcare and social services industries amid estimates of billions of potential losses for you, the taxpayer. That's you. That's your money. Billions in losses across multiple programs since 2018. Federal surges to involve door-to-door probes. Thank God. Thank you, Kristi Noem. That's the one thing I'll thank you for. I will not let you around my dogs. I will say that. But officials emphasize that ongoing reforms are required and dispute exaggerated totals. Immigrant advocates also caution against stigmatizing the Somali American community, noting that most defendants in related cases are Somali, but representing a fraction of the population. State leaders, including Governor Tim Walz's office, assert proactive referrals to law enforcement and strengthened oversight, while federal actions continue independently. I mean, fun. The investigations are still active, but there's no new indictments currently tied directly to the Quality Learning Center that have been announced. The Quality Learing Center, excuse me. I had an ad planned for the Quality Learing Center. They reached out. They were like, hey, can you read this after whatever? I know we have a December 30th show where you're going to read a story about us, but we just need this. And I'm like, wait, do I even have to read the ad anymore? Do I even have to read this anymore? Because it's saying limited spots available or unlimited, depending on who's counting. Call today, or we don't bill anyway. Sponsored by Minnesota taxpayers with love. I have this whole ad ready to go, and I'm just gonna say it. I don't feel comfy reading this anymore. I'm sorry to say it, and also the organization's been dissolved, so I think I can just call it good, right? I think I'm just gonna call it good. Thank you to the Quality Learing Center for the sponsorship money, but I refuse to read your ad, as I'm pretty sure you are in the process right now of fleeing the state of Minnesota. Try Fargo! I heard they have money, and I heard, maybe they're not as giving.